What's the good word, everybody? It's your boy DKB here. I have special guest Dom C. You guys would know him from Project Prospect, his channel. You've also probably seen him from Thursday Thick of It. I know that was my introduction to you, seeing you with Greenbean.
Yes, sir.
Probably not too long after my boy Gunny joined the show. So I've been loving the content. You know, from our end, it's rare to find a lot of people that drill in on like scouting specifically. So it's always been just Jets X Factor, and then I happen to come across you, and you push out some pretty dope stuff, pretty detailed stuff instead of the general holistic views that I see out there. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. Listen, it's just something that I've always kind of gravitated towards, and I went and got myself. You know, I went through scout school to kind of learn and tweak my my skills a little bit, so I got more involved and made the right connection. So it's just something I'm passionate about, something I enjoy, man. If I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it, you know, I'm too old. I'm too old for all the rest of the, you know, mumbo jumbo. So if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna enjoy doing it. And
that's not enough gray out there to call yourself old.
the draft and the scouting aspect of football is something that I really enjoy. So I thank you for watching and talking about the content at all, man. So
yeah, no, 100%. I have a pretty strong affinity. I'm going through myself, some self-studying and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, strongly respected, right? You can tell the people yourself, this is like a year-long cycle for you guys, right? There's really no time off.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? And it's funny. I was talking about that with somebody else, is that I have like this summer, you know, because my boys are, you know, they're of little league age, and this summer they played summer ball, you know, outside of regular little league. So that extended into July, and then, you know, things just got busy and you know, went on vacation and did all this, and it was like 6 weeks where I kind of just separated. You know, I didn't open up. I didn't watch any film. I didn't read anything. I just kind of separated. It was nice, and it was kind of a recharge and a rejuvenation of myself, and kind of setting my priorities right. But you're right, like it is year round, you know, because I'm right back in it. Because if you don't get, you know, you don't get ahead of it going into the college football season, the college football season ends and the draft season really begins, then you're going to be behind. So it's a full-time gig for sure, man.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to make sure that people kind of had an idea of the background traits, right, that we're going to have going in, because I wanted to cover some of our potentially unexpected Jets offseason stars. I know from the draft, you know, just from our team in 2023, people still have their favorites. But who have you been surprised about, whether it's good or bad, going in to this offseason so far?
So, man, I mean, there's so much, but you know, I'll start on the positive. I'll start with the good. One guy that has really impressed me, one guy that I think has impressed all Jets fans, that during the draft, during the cycle, during the scouting cycle, I was a little bit lower on him than the majority, but you know, he's come in and he's really proven to me in small sample sizes this preseason and whatnot, you know, that he's capable of handling the roles where I thought he was going to struggle, and that's Braiden Allen coming out of Wisconsin. You know, I had Braiden Allen ranked, you know, right around 6th or 7th in my running back class, which I thought was a weak running back class to begin with this year, from the cycle. And he was like a unicorn, because they don't make him, you know, 6'2.5", 245 pounds anymore. You know, that's like old school, you know, running back. You see the guys that are, you know, smaller and shiftier and play better in space. And you know, Braiden Allen coming out of Wisconsin wasn't that, you know, and he really dipped in his 3rd season in college, his junior year. His numbers took a big dip, and you know, I questioned really how much he could offer outside of like early. You know, he built like that. I thought he ran hard. For a bigger guy, he was a little bit you know, he was nimbler than you would expect with his feet, but I questioned what he could do in the pass game. I questioned how he could affect the pass game, and he's shown right off the get-go that you know, his hands are good. You know, he just was never really given the opportunity. And in Wisconsin, I talked about that dip in his production from sophomore to junior year. You know, they did change schemes, and they went from a more power gap-oriented run style scheme offense to more of an outside zone, and that just didn't fit his profile. Like he needs to hit a hole, and he needs to hit it hard, because that's where he really can really affect the offense in a positive way. And he's shown that he obviously does that. His contact balance is great. He's shown that all through camp, working with the ones. But the two places that I questioned if he could do it at the next level is in the pass game. Not only as a receiver out of the backfield, which he's handled very well, but even more so as in pass protection. I think he's capable of stepping in right now and handling pass protection in the NFL. And for any rookie running back to have that praise bestowed upon them, that they're pretty good. So he's a guy that I've been thoroughly impressed with. Like I said, I didn't dislike the prospect. He just was not very, he was not a guy that I thought would be able to adjust and be more than just a real limited role player. And I think that he's showing that he can do more than that. So that's the one guy I think from the draft class that I was probably a little bit lower on than, and he has shown, he's shown pretty well. Braiden McGregor, the defensive end out of Michigan, I thought has played very well as well. Undrafted free agent, so that there's going to be limitations, whether it's athletic or size or length, and whatever the case may be. Maybe he's kind of a tweener, and I think that's why for him that was probably one of the bigger reasons on why he ended up going undrafted. Is he played a lot in a 2-point stance or as an outside linebacker at Michigan, did a lot with his hand in the dirt, moved inside sometimes, and it's just kind of like you didn't know where he was going to be. But I think he's got the NFL size. I think he's definitely got the length. I think he's got the body to do it. He plays with conviction. He plays with his tail is on fire, if you know what I mean. Just 100% motor 100% of the time. But you like to see that the game's not too fast for him. So far in the limited reps against 2s and 3s, like you could see that the game's not too fast for him, right? He's, he knows his job on setting an edge, and if he's reading his blocks, and if they're angling a certain way and they're moving that way, he's going down with them, and he's riding it out. He's not getting sealed off. He's getting at the quarterback. He's showing a lot more sophisticated pass rush technique than he just showed in college. Again, we got to remember, DKB, that these guys are coming in. Most of these guys that get drafted or coming in as undrafted free agents are the cream of the crop, right? There's 121 some odd Division I NFL or college programs, and each one of those teams have 60 players on them. So we're really getting the top 2%. So any of these guys could use their athletic prowess and probably dominate a college game. They're not going to do that in the pros, right? So you saw Braiden McGregor win a lot with just sheer power or being stronger, being faster than the guy who was lined up against him. And now where he's not going to be the strongest and he's not going to be the fastest. You're seeing a little bit of a pass. You're seeing some more technique. You're seeing that cross chop with the dip come in. You're seeing, you see him hesitate and kind of showing inside hand, slap it away and go outside. You see, or vice versa. So you're seeing a lot of things that you see grizzled veterans kind of accumulate over time in the NFL. So he's another guy that I think has been really, really impressive. I personally think that, he's going to make the team. I know there's a lot of buzz. I think he's going to make the team, especially with now. Listen, making the final 53 and playing a lot of reps are two different things. I think he's going to make the 53 because the Jets don't want to expose him to those waivers. Whether or not he's active on game day all the time, I don't know. With Hassan Reddick still in question, I don't know what to. I don't know. Where his reps are going to go to, so maybe he can work his way in. But I think he's an NFL player, and for any undrafted free agent to come in, if you can say that or really develop that mindset that you think that this kid can play in the league, I think that's promising. Now, some of the guys that I think have not shown up. I think that I still haven't seen it. Actually, there's two guys that happen to play the same position, where I was expecting a lot more, and I just haven't seen it. And it's Carter Warren and Max Mitchell.
Mm.
And I think again, both of those guys are going to be on the team. I think they're both young, and I know they're both developing. But you would hope at some point it just doesn't seem like, especially with Max Mitchell, everything has just stayed stagnant. He came in as a rookie, 4th-round kid, smaller school, Louisiana State or Louisiana Tech, excuse me, and so he had to, he was a little light in the ass, so he needed to put some weight on, needed to get a little bit stronger, and you saw him kind of thrust into action right away in the Baltimore game, Week 1, 2023. And he stayed in the lineup, so on and so forth. And there was times where, he was kind of going up and downs, but there was times where you're like, okay, maybe this kid's a player. And then last year, I think he just regressed. And this camp so far, I haven't really seen a lot outside of a few reps here or there in practice that have been all that impressive. Just very, very stagnant. Same thing, unfortunately, with Carter Warren. Now, Carter Warren's in a different situation. Carter Warren came in as a rookie last year, right? After only playing 2 games his senior year in college because of an injury, then got hurt in camp. So, he was thrust in Week 9, Week 10, and didn't have a camp, really hadn't played football in a year. So you kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt for him. And again, I think this preseason, he's been very, very, I think his play has been very lackluster, been very unimpressed. And the problem is that, he's already an older prospect when he was drafted. So now he's going on to his age 25 year, 2 years into the deal. He'll have 2 more years, age 27, probably just a one contract guy. So you're going to have to, kind of start looking to replace next year. Not ideal. So those are two. And listen, we all know how valuable the offensive tackle position is. So those you would hope to get production or development out of one of those guys to really come in and feel comfortable, feel safe that you have somebody that can challenge for the right tackle spot next year if you don't retain Morgan Moses, right? Because we know Fashanu is going to be on the left side. Mm-hmm. So in an ideal situation, one of these two young bucks would develop to either step in to take over the right tackle position or at least challenge somebody there. And I'm just not confident in either of those guys yet in that spot.
Yeah, you know what? I think the names and the call-outs have been great so far, right? So kind of recapping back to some of the highlighted players, right? I think one of the things that, to your point, a lot of people forget is that our undrafted free agent class was probably ranked as one of the top 2 or 3 best this offseason, right? And as part of that, obviously the coaching staff stocked up on a lot of these defensive guys, the Eric Watts, the Braiden McGregors, the Leonard Taylors of the world. Every one of the guys that have shown out so far in preseason or flashed in training camp at some point, the projected slots for these guys were like mid-round picks, with the exception of Taylor, who was a former first-round projection and then kind of slid ridiculously. I've never seen a guy drop that far just based on effort alone, so I'm still thoroughly confused by that. But yeah, I mean, to this day, it's hard for me to necessarily call a standout specifically on offense, right? The O-line is always hard to review because you get maybe, the couple minutes of one-on-one footage from joint practices and stuff. And then you get into the preseason games, but you still have to keep in mind, it feels like half the league is maybe playing their starters, half the league is deciding this is just going to be a long-term tryout basis for a lot of these guys. So I haven't seen anybody offensively that has necessarily wowed me, right? The closest thing we have to that is probably Xavier Gipson, and it's not necessarily from a technique standpoint. I just think he happened to have developed some chemistry with Aaron Rodgers to a higher level than maybe many people expected.
Yeah, that's a great name actually, and one that I hadn't talked about. And I was at camp today, and I was talking, just shooting the breeze with some of the guys that were there that I knew, and I said, "Wow, it's nice to see Xavier Gipson kind of running more of a route tree, because he was running more vertical routes. He wasn't just stuck on the kind of hokey stuff or the mesh concepts, crossing routes, drags and stuff like that. He was actually running routes, vertical routes, in the defense, meaning he was schemed into those plays. So that I thought that's a great call. I think he's a guy who has been, pleasantly, I've been pleasantly surprised with seeing too.
Yeah, I thought if anything, I figured he would take a developmental leap, right? But my concern was that maybe he gets stashed into that like weird Elijah Moore role we had, where the guy had skills, he had traits, and I still think Moore is obviously the better receiver at this point. But then we ended up putting him on a lot of those like decoy routes, and ultimately he gets phased out of the offense. So that was my concern. But it has been nice to see him actually become a key part, right? And I take a look at like the recent joint practices where he's just returning from his injury, and it feels like it's a little bit of a different offense again. Maybe even if it's only him being a third or fourth weapon, it was another look that Aaron Rodgers was comfortable with and able to help facilitate that ball a little bit more. Defensively, I'll kind of leave this to you, right, as some of our parting thoughts here. Would you expect more surprise cuts or changes to the roster on offense or defense based on everything you've kind of seen and heard so far?
Well, so I think that's a good question. It's a tough one. I think this year, as Jets fans, we have to understand, and this is kind of a tip of the cap to Joe Douglas, because depending on which side of the line you fall, like he could be either sometimes memorialized for what he's done, or he could be tarred and feathered for what he's done. It depends on which side of the line. I think I tip my cap because he's built a very good roster. Took him longer than you would want. There was a lot of roundabout with some of it, but we're gonna cut a lot of guys that are good this year. So I probably would say that you're going to see more turnover on the offensive side of the ball. I think you're going to see some more surprises, whether or not it's a fourth running back in Izzy Abanikanda is kept, or whether or not it's a ninth or a 10th lineman are kept to start. The wide receiver room to me is still the biggest question mark, and I don't say that in a negative way, but we don't know what Mike Williams is. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. And if you're going to have him limited or on a pitch count or concerned about his health and productivity, does that mean that you want to keep another prototype receiver like a Jason Brownlee? Has Brandon Smith earned enough respect in the time that he's been on there to get a look, so on and so forth? So I think there's more questions on the offensive side of the ball than on the defense. But all in all, I think that you're probably at I'd say 49 spots are filled. 49 spots are filled, and these guys are battling out for the last 4 on the roster. And we can, you as a fan, you can probably pick out the ones that are fighting for their spots. Do we keep a special teams only guy in Irv Charles or Brendan Condritan? Do one of those guys make the roster? Do you run with, like I said, do you run with a 6th, possibly a 7th wide receiver because of the health of Mike Williams? What happens is Reddick showing up? If not, do you keep, does that open up for a Tack McKinley? Does that open up for an Eric Watts to actually make the 53? Do you keep 4 linebackers or 5? I don't know. There's a lot of questions that still have to be answered, but there's not many questions, right? There's not many.
100%.
I think there's like 3 or 4 spots that are still being fought for.
100%. Yeah. So it was a good segue. I heard one of the name drops here. So 3 players to wrap us up. These guys are a little bit more of enigmas to me based on what we've seen. And in most cases, in like a short sample size, right? So this is just kind of your quick thoughts. Is I was going to say risk reward, but basically your confidence in them making the roster or finding a spot. Rhyme or reason doesn't necessarily matter. Wide receiver Brandon Smith.
I have him making the roster. I have him as wide receiver 6 right now. I think he's done enough to earn it. I think he's probably, as constituted, the only true Z or flanker backup to Garrett Wilson on the team. I think he's shown enough in 50-50 and contested catches that I have him making the roster.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to throw out safety Isaiah Oliver.
Also have him making the roster. I think that writing is on the wall when they moved him over. They like the versatility that he can play single high and be an emergency backup slot nickel cornerback if necessary. Like he did. He's got familiarity with the system from his days in San Francisco. I know he's been battling the injuries on and off for preseason, but to me, he's Robert Saleh has talked about him, in positive light. I think that he's a lock for the team. I'm not going to say Brandon Smith is a lock, but I think Isaiah Oliver is a lock for the team. I think they carry 4 safeties, and I think he's the 4th.
Fair play. The final one, and I'm not sure where you fall on this being as tough of a conversation. Michael Clemens.
Yeah. Michael Clemens is going to be on the team. I think Michael Clemens is too valuable right now for what he can offer you in all the peripheral stuff, the special teams. This new special teams, the new kickoff thing is going to come into effect both on kickoff and kick return. You're going to see some more bigger bodies out there than you used to. So I think his versatility in being able to play all, not only kick return, not only kick off, not only punt return, not only punt, but now being probably one of the more seasoned true edge setters at the defensive end position. I think he'll see some of those reps go up. But yeah, for me, I think Michael Clemens gets some undue hate from the Jets fans. Like, listen, he TJ Watt, he is not, but I think sometimes you can't have a team full of TJ Watts, right? You got to have some guys that are gonna pick up the lunch pail, get to work, chop wood, carry water, do all that good stuff, and just come to work every day and grind. And I think he's just one of those grinders, man.
Fair play. Well, we'll put a pin in it here. I appreciate you dropping your thoughts on a lot of these prospects, man. Some of this stuff is definitely the first I've been hearing it, and the perspective that you have on some of these players, right? Especially in Michael Clemens' case, for example, because honestly, it is exactly what you said. It's been nothing but like a crap storm from him, from a lot of the fans that I've heard commenting around the situation. They don't necessarily care about like the special teams value and stuff. But do you have any parting thoughts for us here as we wrap up?
No, man. I will say this. Leaving Florham Park today was as confident of a feeling as I felt probably since the days of from probably 2010 about the way this offense looked. They were that good today, and I know it's just practice. Take it with a grain of salt, but like, man, there was something today that just kind of reinvigorated my hopes that this year is going to be very positive. I think we're in for a good, if we can stay healthy, I think good times are upon us, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped for it. I got to see a couple of the highlights. I've still got to dive into some stuff. But like when you have Sauce Gardner waving off the Giants,
oh man,
and I heard Garrett Wilson was just absolutely
on fire, dude. On fire. He was fired today, man.
It's great. I'm hyped. I think I'm in the same boat as you. This is going to be a season for the record books. Young fans, or at least new fans to the franchise, you guys have come in at a great time if this season goes the way we expect it to. But
yes, sir.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm going to have all of his details in the you guys will find them in the details below for the video. My brain is space, and I'm ready to go.
It's all good, man. It's all good. You can catch me. I'll make it easy for you. I'm very active on Twitter. If you guys are on there, I'm at DC_NY_Jets. You can catch me on Monday nights at 8 p.m. on the Talkin Jets Network. 8 to 9, I have a live show with Ryan from NY Jets Talk 24/7. And on Thursdays, also on the Talkin Jets Network with Greenbean and Gunny for the Thursday Thick of It from 8 to 10 every Thursday, man.
Guys, well, you guys know where to find him. Again, I'll have his links in the details below for you all. Check him out, please. And I hope you guys all have a good one. Peace.